Recording in progress.
Okay, I wish you could see the bottom of my computer because it says it's 73 degrees and sunny where I am. Hallelujah. It was 100 degrees last week. Have a few things to discuss today. That the committee can make some recommendations to the rest of the membership on, I think. But let's start first with any public comments. Is there anybody who's not on the committee who would like to say something or ask to add something to the agenda? Okay, doesn't mean if you think of something later that you can't speak up. The proximity settings task force met last week with Galen Charlton from Equinox. Just before COVID hit, we changed some of the settings in the ILS so that holds would be filled more efficiently. So if there were items available from libraries that share your courier hub, those items would be targeted to fill a hold before items on the record that belong to a library that didn't share your courier hub. And also we weighted branches that get delivery from the courier more often than libraries that don't, as well as targeting a headquarters branch over an outlying branch. So for example, if someone in Jefferson County put an item on hold and Scenic owned a copy of it, we have the same hub. All of our stuff goes through St. Louis. So the item would target something that Scenic owns before something that Albany owns. And it would also target the copy at the Union branch, which is the headquarters branch, before it would target a copy at the Pacific branch, because then you wouldn't have to wait for the item to come from Pacific to Union to get picked up to be taken to St. Louis. So we made those changes just before COVID hit. So we weren't able to get a big sampling of how effective that was. And Galen ran the numbers again before the meeting last week. And some libraries still have quarantine going on at that time, blah, blah, blah. But he did find that before we changed the settings, the average transit for a hold was 7 days with a 4-day variable standard deviation. And now items are arriving in average of 6 days with a 3-day standard variation. So that is an improvement. I'm not sure how many other changes we can make to the proximity settings. Mala is investigating whether all of the assignments of courier hubs are efficient. For example, Crawford County, which is right next to where I am, their items go through the Springfield hub when the St. Louis hub is closer. Not that that would necessarily change how fast holds are being filled, but it might change the efficiency. So the Mid-America Library Alliance is looking at the hub assignments to see if that could be done better. There are other things that affect holds, of course, besides just which hub they're going through. How many days of delivery a library has will affect how quickly holds will be filled. Libraries' efficiency in doing their pull list will affect how quickly holds are filled. And how efficient the hubs are will affect how holds are being filled. The things that go to the hub should be first in, first out. They shouldn't be just taking what's on the top and leaving the older stuff there forever and ever. So we're working on trying to get a handle on some of that information as well to see what we can do to make the holds move faster. 6 days sounds great. And if everything was arriving in 6 days, that would be wonderful. I'd be happy. All would be well. But we know that 6 days as an average mean that there are some that have 24 days and some that have 3 days. And that we still have a lot of things that are taking 2 weeks and more to get where they're going. So we want to remedy that situation. Any questions or comments about that?
When you talked about the headquarters branch being targeted first, we don't have an actual headquarters branch. I know my branch is the like first pick branch from before. Would that still just be the same?
Where does the courier pick up from?
They pick up from our High Ridge location. So would that would be targeted then?
Yes. And I don't remember, I've probably got down in a file somewhere how we set that up, if we put High Ridge as the first pick point for Jefferson County. Okay, let's move on to handling branch and library closings. We've had we, at least here at Scenic, we had a lot of branches revolving closing during COVID because staff were infected or exposed or something. And I never reported that to anybody to the executive board. I just handled the closings here locally. Libraries get closed for other reasons. Electricity's out, or there's water in the building or something like that. And it just came up recently when there was a library that was closed, wondering if we should check in with the executive board, let them know, and make sure that the libraries that are experiencing these problems get the instructions for what to do so that holds won't be sitting in there on their pull list when there's nobody there to do anything about it. Because we need to close the library in the ILS, but we also need to change some settings in library settings so that the branch or the library won't be targeted to fill holds while it's closed. And I'm just not sure, we have 54 members now, if everybody understands the procedure. And if we made it mandatory, although I don't like that word, if we were highly recommended that libraries, when they close a branch or close the library, contact the executive board, and then we could be sure that the executive board passes on the instructions so that it's handled correctly.
Would you want to put a time frame qualifier on there just so they don't get contacted if it's just closed for an afternoon or whatever, and say maybe like a day or two or something?
That's a good point. What do you think? How long do you think?
I would think at least a couple of days. I don't know, 2, 3 or something. Enough to make it impactful and worth having the conversation.
Right.
Right, because like in the winter months, a lot of the branches will have at least maybe a day or two, if not more, especially in more rural areas that may be impacted more. So with that, I think as long as there's communication and everyone is aware they are supposed to use like the close dates editor to close for those, that will help. I know with our Mount Vernon branch, we were using the close dates editor, but then it was kind of back and forth on when it was going to be open. So we were just kind of doing it like a week or 2 weeks at a time. And so there was a few times where there was kind of an overlap where we didn't get the close dates set again immediately until we realized, oh, we need to redo that since we're still not open.
So what happened down there?
Let's see, it's been several months now. We had a storm that caused a city drain pipe to get blocked, and basically kind of sewage water had all flooded back into the building. And so they had to tear out drywall, all of the flooring, tear out all the bathrooms. So they pretty much had to do a full renovation. We're hoping to actually get open after the July 4th holiday there at the Mount Vernon location.
Wow.
Because yeah, there's been lots of setbacks as far as trying to order some of the replacement materials and getting people in. We had to have like a Surf Pro company come in and do a massive cleaning, and they'll have to come back and do one final cleaning once everything is restored fully. But
wow. And yet the health department have to come in and do inspections?
I'm not certain. I wasn't involved in a lot of that. I was just kind of kept up to date on when they were closed and how things are going. But yeah, the cleaning company did go in immediately and do a lot of the sterilization and things. Luckily, no like books or major equipment or anything like that was damaged. You know, the water didn't get high, but it was enough that it damaged all the flooring and up part of the drywall in places.
Man. It's kind of like your worst nightmare, isn't it? Well, what happened? Oh, we
Yeah.
had sewage in the library.
Yeah.
Gosh. Okay, so do you think that's a good idea to request that libraries contact maybe the chair or someone so that they can make sure that they're handling the closing right? If it's going to be more than just a day of snow, you know, if it's going to be 2 or 3 days, which would really impact holds fulfillment.
Would it be better to have
Krista, is that you talking?
Sorry, I wasn't for sure if I was unmuted or muted. I was trying to figure out my computer. Would it be better to put that? I mean, yes, maybe go ahead and contact, you know, an official contact person, whoever that may be, but also put it on the Circ list of, hey, we are having these issues. You know, if you're placing a hold, you know, keep that in mind for, you know, if it's within your hub, especially knowing that it's probably going to grab from that hub or whatever. Don't choose that. You know, sometimes you can place an item hold instead of a, you know, a copy hold or whatever. That way you can, you just have a heads up more than anything. Oh, that branch is closed. I'm not going to get that copy, you know, that type of thing.
Yeah, we could let the whole list know then that some place is out of commission for a while.
And then the system is already set to where after 24 hours, if that hold hasn't been captured, it's automatically looking for something. But if that's the only copy in the system, then we definitely need to know that that's not available at that time.
Yes, then there it sits. Right.
Diane, I did want to say that I appreciated the email that you guys had sent out about the hopeless holds, and I think Ron Eifert had helped along with that and how to sort of eliminate those by going into the record and finding items that needed to be merged. And I was able to completely clear our hopeless holds list yesterday by doing that.
Just by merging with another record?
Well, the reason why it was a hopeless hold was because the hold had been placed on a single record that had a single item, and then when that library went to pull it, they couldn't find it, so they marked it as missing, and then it became hopeless. Well, it was, one of them was for like a Harry Potter book, so it was like, well, why didn't this get merged to begin with? And it was like the exact same copy that, I don't know, probably 20 other libraries had. Same ISBN, same pagination, all of that stuff. So whenever I merged them, then the hold was picked up again.
That's wonderful when that works that way.
Yeah.
Yes, that's really great. I was working on some of our hopeless holds for a couple of our branches yesterday. None of them had that. And even if they had, I wouldn't have been able to merge them because I don't know anything about cataloging. But all of the things I saw were either a title hold on an item that now has parts, so I changed that, or single copies that there was only one copy in the whole consortium and they were all missing.
I guess I just got lucky.
Yeah. Well, it sounded like Ron and Colleen too must have been lucky that they've been able to merge a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah. Well, I do. I'm hoping that this meeting doesn't run past noon because I'm the certified cataloger on staff. I'm doing the Circ meetings now, and I'm also our youth services coordinator. And we are smack in the middle of the summer reading program, so I'm getting ready to go outside because for safety, we're doing outdoor story times,
Yes.
and so we're so lucky that today it is pretty decent weather. So.
For
I got
you,
my fingers
Molly.
in a lot of little I got my fingers in a lot of little pots here, but it's been a lot of fun. So I enjoy all the stuff I get to do. But I
Yes.
just wanted to say that was a really helpful email yesterday, and that's what's great about the listserv is that I was able to clear that, and otherwise I would have never even thought about doing it.
Very
So,
good.
thank you.
Very good. Another thing that came up since the last meeting, which I know was a couple months ago already, was damages between libraries. And I think I sent something out about that too. You're very soon not going to be getting all these emails from me because Meredith is going to be taking over. But damages between libraries, if another library damages your item, of course, ideally it will be caught when the patron returns it to their home library. And then the home library will be calling you and saying, I'm so sorry, my patron had let their dog chew up your item. Please mark it damaged, and we'll let them know what they need to do about it, and ask if they can keep the chewed up item so the patron can have it when they pay for it, or at least the patron can see what the damage is. So when they start arguing, there's something to prove what's happened. I know not all some libraries do want their damaged items back, and that's perfectly fine. But what we don't want to happen is for that damaged item to get back to the home library, and then the home library marks it damaged without notifying the patron's library, because then there's this bill on the patron's account that has not been discussed with the patron's library. The patron's library hasn't been able to contact the patron about it. The patron comes in to check something out or tries to log on to a public computer, and they can't because there's a bill on their account, which may or may not have a good explanation about why there's a bill there. So just everyone, please be aware, if you find an item's been damaged by another member library, please contact that patron's library and discuss what you're going to do about it, so everybody's on the same page.
Yes, I'm going to jump on that bandwagon and say that I've had several patrons lately who've come in and there have been charges on their account that I knew nothing about. Now, there was a note on the account from that home library, but I will tell you, I've also started my own tracking of what I receive or send that is damaged. That way I know that if it has been received in my library or I have sent it from my library and it had any issue whatsoever, I've kept track of that. Because I've had those patrons who have been charged, and I have no record that that actually touched anybody's hand here in our library and was damaged. So I'm assuming that that damage happened during courier, which I understand is still our financial responsibility, but does not necessarily need to be passed on to my patron if my patron did not damage that item. I've had an item that was turned in quote unquote muddy and got charged for that, and that would have been definitely noticeable if we had it in our hand, and another one that had liquid damage, and again we should have really caught those two items. So I really believe that those items got damaged during the courier service, but yet the owning library went ahead and charged our patrons without contacting me. So I'm on that bandwagon of communication is key. You know what? I know I don't have a problem paying for that item. That's just the cost of doing business. But don't jump that gun and charge my patron without letting me do some research and development and, search and rescue mission on that.
Right. And if you see that it seems to be the same libraries over and over that are billing without contacting, just contact them. You don't want hard feelings to be generated in this consortium, and it's best to contact them, contact the chair of the circulation committee, and let that person contact that library, so that we can try to have a delicate conversation that please don't do this.
And along those lines, on the directions that you shared out, Diane, it didn't mention the requesting of the invoice from the library that owned the item or whatever too. Talking to the people here, that's a key piece for that communication aspect of it, is when we talk to the library that owned the book and have them be invoicing us for us, that's where we can have some of that communication and get things going, but it wasn't
Yeah.
mentioned on there.
Okay. All right. We need to update that and say, please send a bill, send a bill. I did have a library respond to me about that and say that to avoid having to contact the library, if the patron's right in front of you and says, this item is damaged, I want to pay for it, instead of needing to contact the owning library to say, please mark it damaged, tell me how much it's going to cost, you could just mark it lost instead, and it would generate a bill. I assume that all the libraries in our consortium charge the same for loss and damage, although that doesn't necessarily have to be the case. They could charge differently for lost and damaged. And here at Scenic, we treat lost and damaged items differently. The damaged item, we just, after we've done all the paperwork and sent the bill and everything, we'll just delete it from the catalog. But lost items, we don't delete them from the catalog till they've been lost for 4 years. So it's not a big thing, but if it's been marked lost instead of damaged, it's going to hang out in the catalog for 4 years instead of getting removed right away. So I would encourage contacting the library. And if a patron's standing in front of you, they might be willing to wait till you can reach somebody just to ask how much the bill is going to be. There are a lot of variables and things we just can't nail down, and or know how things have been being handled for sure. But I would just recommend contacting the library so that the correct bill gets on there and it's recorded correctly.
Yeah, and it's also important too, as we all know, the different gradations of what I consider damaged and what you consider damaged can be different things as well too. And whoever owns the item may not bill along the same stringent structures as other places do too. So that's why the conversation is always useful too.
Yeah, right. There are such things as partial damages. We see, and we don't charge partial damage here at Scenic. If there's underlining on 1 or 2 pages, we'll just let it go. But if there's underlining so much that we don't want to circulate it anymore, then somebody has to pay the whole price. But I know that's not the way all libraries work. So communication is important. Which brings us to point 5, patron contact. Patrons should not be contacting another library. If my patron wants to renew something, they should be contacting me instead of the owning library. If something came from Marshall Public Library, my patron should not be contacting Marshall. And if my patron damages something or loses something that belongs to Marshall, they should not be calling Marshall to find out how much it's going to cost. They should be contacting me. So, so if one of your patrons contacts us, we're going to tell them, please contact your home library. And we had a patron recently, and I don't even remember what the other library involved was, that felt like it was a runaround for us to be insisting that they talk to us instead of that other library. But that's all anybody needs, is for somebody else's patrons to start contacting them, trying to sort through what's going to be charged, and if they're allowed to renew it just one more time, kind of a thing.
But just to put an exception to that, I did get called by a patron not too long ago, and it was for an older nonfiction book, and they had maxed out the renewals. We had no one waiting for it. We didn't really care about it. So I did tell them that they could go ahead and renew it until the other library, because it seems senseless to have it circulate all the way back here to restart the clock for them to go all the way back there. So
So
I did break the rule there.
you broke the rules. Look at that. So checked it in and checked it out again? something like
I
that?
did with the patron. I told them basically to tell them that we said it was okay at their home library and see how far that flew. And they didn't call back. So hopefully that flew there.
So hopefully it was okay.
Yeah. But yeah, we didn't need it back, and it seems senseless to have it transit back for them to re-request it and have it transit
And have
back.
it go again.
Yeah, I know. In particular, we had one patron that was waiting on a book, and we found out later she took it upon herself to find out where that book was coming from and actually contacted the library herself. And we're like, oh no, please let us handle that. But
Yeah, I've been waiting and waiting, and I
you
see it
can't
says it's
always
available.
stop some of these patrons sometimes, but yeah. And I don't
Yes.
know if there's a good way to put information out there for patrons to see and know, or how we can kind of prevent that from being too much of
Prevent
a
it,
problem. So I know
yeah.
it does happen that there are some patrons that are kind of enterprising and will look at the information on the libraries.
That's a wonderful adjective. They're enterprising.
Yes.
We need to start using that more instead of some of the other words we use. The Missouri Evergreen, the Missouri Library Association Conference is going to be 2 days at the end of September. So it's kind of a shortened conference. Meredith has already gotten approval for a breakout session about Missouri Evergreen, where we're going to give just a few minutes presentation about circulation, cataloging, a few other things about Missouri Evergreen. But the last executive board meeting, it was suggested that we have a pre-conference session about Missouri Evergreen for Missouri Evergreen members to get together and talk and work on some procedures and answer some questions, that kind of a thing. So that was going to be proposed or sent in a proposal to the conference committee to see if that could happen the day before the conference. I haven't heard any more about that. Have you, Meredith?
Yeah, I haven't heard anything back either.
So some of us may be tagged to work on circulation issues, not issues. Issues always sounds to me like problems, even though I've been told that's not accurate. But circulation things at the pre-conference. So as soon as we hear back if that's going to happen, that may affect people's wanting to attend if they know that there's going to be a Missouri Evergreen pre-conference. And moving forward, we would like to have maybe something regional so that everybody in a region of the state can get together and go over procedures and learn from each other how someone else is doing, handling billing, filling holds, working with the hopeless holds. We can all learn from each other so much. Everybody has so much in their heads. You probably don't even realize all the wonderful things you have going on there, that it would be great if we could share that with others. So we're looking at doing more as a consortium to work together. We're spread over the whole state, and we understand that there are some libraries that only have 3 staff members. You can't send 2 people to a conference. So it's hard to even send 1 person to a conference. But we're trying to think of other ways that we can increase our working together.
Yeah, Diane, I really do like the idea of a regional, maybe annual or even biannual meeting. That way it could maybe be only maybe one night away possibly, and be able to do like a full day conference or something. You kind of limit the travel and time away from, your own library.
Yes. And I always think about dividing the state into fourths, but maybe there's a better way of dividing.
Mm-hmm.
Could look and see where our member libraries are clustered.
Right, because I know like from my library to the St. Louis area is roughly 4 hours. So if you could kind of divide it to where it's maybe no more than a 2-hour travel time for most libraries, that would be good.
We'll do it in Columbia.
The center, the 2 hours travel time. That sounds like a good standard.
So I mean, it could make for a long day, but it still would be drivable without even having to necessarily stay overnight.
Yes, right. You could get somewhere by 8 o'clock. You'd
Mhm.
certainly get somewhere by 8:30 or 9. And if you were finished by 5, you could be home again by 7.
Mhm.
It's a good parameter. Okay, anything else that you'd like to discuss today?
I had a stray question just to see if anyone else had seen this behavior or if it's just a ghost in the machine that we're experiencing. We've seen it several times where when you go to look up a patron and it brings up a list of the different patron records that match your search. When you select the one that you want, the one it actually opens is the one below it. I don't know if
Yes,
anybody-
Meredith, we have actually seen that ourselves. We
Okay,
didn't
we're
know
not
if it was
crazy. Yay.
Chrome or whether it was something with Equinox. It's not a, we just see it randomly, but yeah, it has happened here, I know.
Great, we're not crazy. Yay.
And it did seem to just happen after the upgrade. So it made us wonder if we did need to, but we just never looked into it that much more.
Okay, and I did look into Launchpad some to see if it was on there as an existing bug, but I didn't dig super deep. So now that I have validation, other people are seeing it, I'll dig further.
Is there anyone else besides the two of us on here that have seen it?
And it may be happening to you and you may not have noticed. It came to the forefront because our interlibrary loan card, when you search for it, Neo shows up right below it. And then our interlibrary loans are being checked out on the Neo show interlibrary loan card, which made for some very entertaining mystery solving.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and I actually had it just today because I was trying to pull up my personal account to place a hold for something I wanted. And since I'm an admin, I also have, an admin user account as well. And I just searched by my last name. And so there was the two on the list and it pulled up my work one rather than my personal one.
Wow. We've had like if when you check something out, the title will show up twice. So if you check out 4 items to somebody, there'll be 8 lines because it's shown up twice. But that happens randomly and rarely too. Never enough to do anything about. When the staff tell me about it, I say, yeah, well, why don't you close it down and open it up again? Try that. But that happened before the upgrade, so that wasn't necessarily that. We have had trouble with Hatch since the update. Oh my gosh, have we had trouble with Hatch? And it seems like it's when Windows is doing an update and there's absolutely nothing you can do about that because it's just going to do the update whether you want it to or not. And then Hatch doesn't work. Sometimes it can't even get into Evergreen. It just shows the green band along the top. But it works if you go incognito or if you go over to Firefox.
And we've been living in a hatchless wonderland for quite a few years, but we are still experiencing Windows update problems with the star printers. Even without Hatch, they keep dropping.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
we have the same issue. We don't use Hatch, but I recently had to have Avitas, that kind of is our network managing company, help me out because our USB connected star printers, all of a sudden, they were still showing on the computer, but they would not communicate at all. It was like they just still did not exist at all. So they had to go in, totally remove all the drivers, totally reinstall the drivers on those computers and reinstall the printers for them to finally work after the update. So it's
Yeah,
like something with Windows did not like the existing drivers. You know, we had the Star printers that are identical, but were connected through the network, and we did not have any issue with any of those.
Yeah, and we're having the exact same problem, and computers are picking up updates at different times, so they're dropping left and right.
And after you reinstall the driver once, do you have to do it again?
So far, we've only had to do the reinstall once.
We've done it multiple times on ours. Mhm.
Huh. I thought it was mainly a hatch problem.
No, I think it's some incompatibility with
Yeah,
the printer driver.
Yeah, with this was specifically the Star printer, so it may depend on, you know, what printers you're actually using at your library, but yeah, we're using the Star TSP.
Well, and we couldn't even get to anything. I mean, it would show the green bar along the top where you could choose all the functions, but you couldn't, if you clicked on circulation, nothing happened.
Yeah, and this doesn't impact Evergreen or how it displays. It just, like she said, the printer just
It was
acts
just
like
the
it's
printer.
dead.
Yeah, you can get to the print menu. It'll say it's printing, and then later it finally will come up with an error. But yeah,
Lovely.
so far we seem to have got ours resolved with the help of our IT guy that went in and cleared everything out and totally did a reinstall and did a different, I think, version of the driver.
Someone
Yeah,
in chat
that's a good
said,
tip on the network side with it too. I'll let our IT people know about the network ones being a little more stable.
Mhm.
well, I talked to the staff here and I said, well, do you want to get rid of hatch since it seems to be causing all kinds of problems? Then it won't auto print and then you'll have to select the printer that you want. And everybody said, no. But it did seem to, when it wouldn't work in Chrome, it would work in Firefox. So
Yeah, the nice thing about not auto printing is it saves you a lot of paper because a lot of people don't want the paper. So there is that bonus for having to make the choice.
Yeah, we don't print and like a receipt unless the patron asks for it. The only things we truly print are for the Evergreen transits. We even handwrite our hold information usually.
Oh, do you really?
Mhm.
No, I don't think that would fly here. Not after we've had the auto print on everything.
We would go through quite a lot of paper as large as ours is. And just for budget, they're kind of like, yeah, we can just use scrap paper for writing our patron names and their phone numbers to call for holds.
You don't have a public hold shelf, do you?
No, we keep ours all behind the desk.
See, these are things that if we all were in the same room, we could talk about this stuff together.
I was going to say we do the same thing at our library. If it's for a hold for one of our own patrons, we just write it on a piece of scrap paper because they're going to throw it away anyway.
Okay, anything else?
Since I think I take the reins in July, do we want to actually have a July meeting? I know a lot of people are away and that kind of stuff. I know we have to have 10 a year and we've already skipped May. So we can only skip one more month this year. It's whether or not we want to skip July or December.
Yeah, because if we met what is this? The 1, 2, 3, 4th Tuesday. It's the 4th Tuesday in July is the 27th.
Yeah, and I'm totally fine to meet then. I just figured I'd throw that out there depending on what people have their schedules. Summer it's busy for lots of people, as Molly mentioned.
I'm good with meeting in July.
I'm good with meeting in July.
Yeah, July's fine for me. And actually December might be a better one to skip with the holidays and even weather issues potentially.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Then we can plan on having the one in July at the same day, same channel.
Then I will turn it over to Meredith and we will continue to have Rhonda and Janice and Teresa and Leanne and Diane on the committee. And we're adding Belinda and Sandy and Molly. So we'll have some fresh blood and new ideas and people to help share the work. We haven't had an awful lot to do the last couple months because we worked on that procedure policy for a while. So it's been almost like a vacation recently. And the executive board hasn't said, circulation committee, would you look into this? So we've had a little bit of a break. If there's nothing else, please make sure your name is in the chat so I can take the attendance. And we'll see you all next time.
All right.
Thank
Bye,
you. Have a good
everybody.
day.